Hey everybody, Naomi back with IGN's E3 live show, streaming at you on e3.ign.com. We're now going to get flung into the far future where everyone has big muscles and even bigger guns. Anthony's now here to introduce Warhammer 40k Space Marine.
What's up, everyone? I'm Anthony, here with Raphael from Relic, and we're here to show you Warhammer 40k Space Marine. So what kind of makes Warhammer 40k Space Marine unique? I mean, I think a lot of people have this mistaken idea that this is somehow a copy of other games, and not realizing the Warhammer 40k universe is over 20 years old.
That's right. Yeah, that was our starting point, really. Warhammer 40,000, as you said, it's been around for almost 25 years. It's a rich, sprawling science fiction universe. At Relic, we've had a lot of success making the Dawn of War series of real-time strategy games. We've worked with Games Workshop for the last 7 or 8 years on those games. And Space Marine is our fresh new take on that IP. This is us delivering Warhammer 40,000 as an action blockbuster experience. It's a very fresh, unique IP. There's a lot of stuff in here. Anyone who likes action blockbusters, anyone who likes science fiction is going to be able to jump right in here and have a great time.
I mean, obviously, Relic's well known for doing a ton of great RTS games. What is it that you guys feel that really makes you want to bring a third-person action game?
It's really about wanting to come at this from a completely different perspective, and there's so much in the IP that lends itself to this type of game. It's really all about us wanting to take the player out of that sort of 100-foot-away view and put them right in the boots of the Space Marine hero character and let them experience the violent brutality of Warhammer 40,000 in a much more kind of up-close and personal way.
I mean, I think a lot of people see Warhammer 40k Space Marine and they think to themselves it's a third-person shooter, but it's obviously not just a third-person shooter.
No.
Melee combat is heavily emphasized.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, one of the things that's so unique about our game, about Space Marine, is that we have a complete third-person melee combat model and complete third-person shooter combat model, and we've combined them seamlessly. So that players have at any point, they can immediately choose between either of those systems, and it creates a completely different combat experience. It's very seamless. It emphasizes forward momentum and the power of that character. It feels very responsive and satisfying.
So Space Marines obviously play a little bit different than a lot of other, characters in action games. I mean, You play something like Ninja Gaiden, they're live. There's these characters bouncing around super fast.
Sure.
What's kind of the challenge of making a melee combat around like a hulking character? He's obviously not going to be this ninja of sorts. But
yeah, I mean, finding the balance of staying true to the size of the character, the proportions, and delivering that sense of the strength and the power of that character and the presence of that character, but not compromising on making a game that still feels very responsive and fun to play. And so that's been a really big focus for us in the way our gameplay systems work and our animation systems work, to deliver on that sense of the weightiness of the character, but never making him feel like he plods through the world. I mean, you're very responsive. The combat is very fast-paced. All your actions are very immediate. You always feel in control. You feel very powerful. And that's really what it's all been about, just delivering that fantasy of being the Space Marine hero.
So obviously, this is based off of a tabletop game owned by Games Workshop.
That's
How
right.
involved has Games Workshop been in the design process?
We have a great collaboration with Games Workshop. Like I said, we've been working with them for 7 or 8 years, and really it's because we have such a great relationship and a good trust with them that we're able to make Space Marine. It's been great to work with them. They've been a great collaborative partner, and I mean, it's wonderful to work within 40K because it's a vast, rich universe, and we've been able to come at it from a different point of view and deliver an experience of 40K that's never really been done before. This is the biggest production of Warhammer 40,000 ever done. This is an action blockbuster experience that's gonna, the fans are gonna love it. They're gonna notice all the attention and detail that we've put in there for them. But you don't need to know anything about Warhammer 40,000 to be able to just jump right in here.
Yeah, see, I think that's the thing, right? Is like someone like me who knows and loves the Warhammer universe. Obviously, I'm already interested in it because I want to see what it's like to play as a Space Marine, and more specifically an Ultramarine. But for people that don't even know what an Ultramarine is, what do you think it is about 40K that will appeal to them? They probably just look at it and see like orcs in space, like what?
Yeah, I mean, we talk a lot about how the IP is almost 25 years old, and it's inspired a lot of science fiction and other games, movies. It's also been inspired by a lot of other science fiction, and so there's a lot that's familiar in here, even though it's wrapped in a very unique aesthetic that is really all about Warhammer 40,000. So I think that superficially the IP is very accessible to anyone who likes science fiction, likes blockbuster games right away.
How do you guys feel like maybe your experience with the Dawn of War franchise has kind of influenced the way that you work on a Warhammer game?
It's having the familiarity with the IP, knowing and loving it. I mean, at Relic we have some of the biggest fans of Warhammer 40,000 in the world working there, and just understanding the world, understanding how to express it as a third-person action game has really been a really big part of what makes Space Marine so special. And it really comes from that, having worked with Games Workshop and having lived with this IP and worked, you know, on the RTS games, helped us to have a very specific point of view on how to deliver this as an action game.
So, I mean, obviously, Space Marine, you know, when people see the name, they think, like, why is it called Space Marine, right? They think it's like this, people that are ignorant of the franchise think it's somehow like, it's a joke or it's generic or something like that. I mean, is there a reason that you guys wanted to make sure that you were really getting across Space Marines as opposed to some other part of the Warhammer universe? Obviously, you guys in the past have done campaigns that involved everything from Tyranids to Eldar. You know, why is it that you wanted to focus on Space Marines?
You know, we find the Space Marine character itself such a he's like the iconic hero of Warhammer 40,000, right? He's the hero that people who don't know anything about the IP probably have encountered and seen. So it's a great entry point into the IP for those people. But also the Space Marine hero, I mean, the fantasy of being, you know, humanity is surrounded at all sides by the alien horde, and really the Space Marines are the only thing sort of standing between, you know, that and the utter annihilation of the human race. That's a really compelling fantasy, and being that character and inhabiting that character, you know, we feel so strongly about that character that we built an entire game experience around it.
I mean, you know, the Dawn of War franchise has been something Relic has worked on for years.
Yeah.
I don't mean to keep coming back to it, but I'm saying is Space Marine something that, you know, in the future, if, you know, people love it, we could see, you know, this being a return thing for Relic, like a franchise basically.
Absolutely,
instead of just a game.
No, absolutely. I mean, Space Marine is the first of a franchise. We've created, you know, a whole cast of characters. It's a story that's specific for Space Marine. We've got Captain Titus, who's our franchise hero. I mean, for us, this is the first game in what we look at as a franchise, and we're just excited for fans and all gamers to get it in their hands and play it. We hope they love it, and we look forward to being able to make more of them.
So, you know, I think some people look at it and wonder why there isn't a cover system to it. Was that
Absolutely.
a choice?
That is a deliberate choice, and again, it goes back to that starting point of wanting to create that Space Marine character. And what does that fantasy mean? Space Marines they don't hide and take cover. They're not going to take pot shots at enemies. They're a confident warrior. That's why they've got this bright, you know, blue and gold armor. They want to be seen. They're conspicuous. So they want to strike, you know, fear in the hearts of their enemies. So that's really, you know, key to the promise of being that character. And so all our mechanics, everything in the game is built around serving that fantasy. And so it was a very deliberate decision from the very beginning to not follow the convention of, you know, cover-based third-person shooters and to try and do something that's much more true to the character. That's why we have this seamless blend of melee and shooting, which is really the hallmark of our combat system. It's not just that we chose to not have a cover system. We want you to be much more aggressive in this game. And the combat is very intense, and we've gone so far as to do things like, you know, when your health is low, instead of running away to kind of regenerate like most games sort of teach you to do, we give you execution so you can just jump in there and get even more aggressive. You know, pick a guy up, saw him in half, and harvest health from him. So it's all about, you know, delivering on that fantasy of being that powerful character, having that aggressive, intense combat, you know, having all the system, you know, tools at your disposal to be, you know, to dominate the battlefield.
Space Marines, you know, in the lore, to get nerdy with you for a second, obviously Brotherhood is a huge thing.
Sure.
In this level, he's kind of running around. I mean, right there we see another one. But is there going to be parts where you really are working as sort of a squad?
Absolutely, yeah. There's two really important story characters. They're both Ultramarines, Sergeant Sidonis and the rookie Leandros, who are basically the core story of Space Marine revolves around the interplay between these three Ultramarines characters. And so, yeah, that's a big part. We've got other characters in the story. We bring in the Inquisition. You know, we've got a Forge World setting with Titans. The Orcs are trying to take control of the Titans, and you got to protect them. We also bring, obviously, the forces of chaos onto the planet. It's a much darker story. There's a conspiracy that involves Captain Titus. You know, it's a really a big blockbuster entertainment experience that we feel, you know, would be right at home with kind of any summer kind of popcorn movie.
You know, the weapons obviously are very familiar to someone who's played Warhammer. I mean, are there going to be special abilities and sort of like key mechanics that players who, you know, have worked within the tabletop franchise might recognize?
I mean, they'll recognize all the weaponry that we have in the game. We've created one new weapon, the Vengeance Launcher, which is like our grenade launcher, but all the other weapons are straight out of the IP. We've got the Bolter, the Storm Bolter, Plasma Gun, Las rifle. We've got, like, you know, an enormous wealth of weaponry, including 3 melee weapons, the Chainsword, Power Axe, and Thunderhammer. And then we have exotic weapons, which are so overpowered that we only give them to you at certain points in the game and kind of build these set-piece encounters around them. So, yeah, I mean, we've got an enormous amount of weaponry. The fans of the IP they're gonna recognize all that stuff. We've got hardware in the world, the epic architecture that they're familiar with. I mean, they're gonna see 40K realized in a way that's never been done before.
That's awesome. Well, it looks great.
Thank you.
It looks very true to the Warhammer universe,
Absolutely.
and I can't wait to play it in this September, correct?
September, yes, September on Xbox 360, PlayStation 3, and PC.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks a lot.
Back to you, Naomi.
Thanks for that look at Space Marine, guys. Next up, we have A Date with Destiny. X-Men Destiny. We'll see you there.